People usually watch The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit and they don't really think about the world itself. I mean, it is a pretty generic medieval world, right? You have your cities, your plateaus, your mountains, your people, your rivers, your lakes, and other things, right? It's more about the characters, right? It's like, oh, we have the big tree people, or we have the elves, or we have the hobbits. But nobody really ever thinks more deeply about the world itself. It's kind of like on the surface just a general medieval fantasy world. But what people don't really look at is that, yeah, on the surface, it's just a grassy plateau, but under that grassy plateau is a lot of lore. So, if you like videos about lore, video games, shows, whatever, culture in general, consider subscribing. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. So, what kind of lore do I have to present? Well, one thing that people usually don't know whenever they watch the movies or even read the books is that Middle Earth, the world of Tolkien, is set in the prehistory of Earth. Yep, that is correct. Basically, Tolkien wrote his world in a way that it was like a prehistory of our world, where eventually, I talked about this a little bit in my previous videos, but eventually the magic faded. And that's his reasoning, is that we used to have wizards. Obviously, he didn't believe this actually. He didn't say out loud that, oh yeah, I believe that this is actually how it was, because it is a imaginary world. But I think what he was trying to say is that we really don't have a full understanding of history. Like, yeah, we do have some bones and some cave paintings and some, writing, but a lot of history is left misunderstood. We don't have a lot of information. And what he was just trying to say is that, hey, maybe there were wizards, maybe there were, Balrogs, even, right? Maybe there was magic. And slowly but surely, it kind of faded away. I think this also tied in a little bit with, religion, because I believe he was a religious folk. So he kind of like built this world where we had magic, right? We had wizards, and then we see in the Lord of the Rings the elves leaving. That's a part of the magic leaving Middle Earth, because Middle Earth, in essence, is basically our world. Now, another thing, like I'm saying Middle Earth, and that's not entirely correct, because Middle Earth is just a landmass in a much bigger world. Whenever I was reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, you have the little map, right, in the books, and that map is just of Middle Earth. Now, Middle Earth is a small landmass. There's a much bigger world out there. Now, obviously, in the movies, we know that there are the Grey Havens, right, where the elves live, and that's a kind of separate world. So basically, that's kind of the part of Middle Earth that isn't really accessible to most creatures. So I wouldn't call it like a permanent kind of like landmass, right? Because it's like the home of the Valar, it's where Gandalf comes from, right? And it's like, the Undying Lands. Now, there was also a thing called Numenor, which was great, and then it sunk, like kind of like Atlantis. So it was a big kingdom of men, and basically it got destroyed, right? And the survivors of Numenor founded Gondor, and Arnor. So basically, there was a huge city of men and got destroyed, and then those people fled to Gondor. So if you want to understand where the people of Gondor came from, that's where they came from. Now you also have the Eastern lands, right? Basically Rune, and where the Easterlings come from. If you remember, I believe this is where the people who served Sauron in the movies, like you remember those guys, right? So that's where those came from. And that's also where the elves, I believe, originally, kind of awoke. Then you also have the Harad, like southern lands, so to the south of Gondor and Mordor, and they're inhabited by the Haradrim, right? And they are the guys who had the Oliphants, so those are the precise guys. And you have Khand to the southeast, which is the home of the Varyags, right? Horsemen. who also fought for the Dark Lord Sauron. So essentially, Sauron was like, "Yo, I'm just gonna gather everyone that's not Gondor and the hobbits, and I'm just gonna have them fight for me." Now there are some other mysterious regions like the Land of the Sun and the Darkland because Tolkien was only a human and he couldn't necessarily give us. He wrote the Silmarillion, which was like a huge compound of a lot of information, so he couldn't, and he didn't include much of like this description of the geography. So we don't have a full understanding of the whole world. We have a good understanding of places like Middle Earth, not a good, like a decent one, right? But he just didn't give us a lot of information on other lands. That's why we don't have a concrete full map of Arda, which is the general world of Tolkien. So when I say Arda, I mean like Middle Earth, the Eastern lands, Southern lands, every land that you can possibly mention, even the Undying lands, right? So essentially, the Middle Earth is a small part of actually, it's not that small, but it's a part of a much larger world that is set in the prehistory of our world. And I think that makes sense because it would be really goofy for Tolkien to say, okay, I'm going to make a prehistory, but there's only like one continent, one, heaven type place. And that's about it. I'm not going to include much more than that. That sounds pretty goofy to me, right? Wouldn't you say? But essentially, that's basically where Middle Earth is. Now, one thing that I found incredibly unique, and that's also why that's also where I kind of imagine living in the future, is the Shire. Tolkien essentially made the Shire, that area, as big as the United Kingdom, as England. Because, he was in England and there is a specific place that inspired the Shire, which is called Sarehole Mill, which is the location where he like really walked around when writing the Lord of the Rings, and where he got the inspiration for the Shire. So essentially, the Shire is the whole of England in the Lord of the Rings. So if you want to live in the Shire, just go live in the countryside of England. That's basically the Shire. That's personally where I want to live. Like England is pretty in some hot waters right now, but I think they'll settle eventually. But essentially, from what I understand in Tolkien's notes, the Shire is about like 40 leagues wide and 50 leagues long, which is like 120 miles, 150 miles. 40 leagues is 120 and 50 leagues is 150. So essentially, that's basically just as big as modern day England. So essentially, the Shire is England. The Shire folk are Englandiers. Oh damn, that's a word that I've heard for the first time. But yeah, so basically, the Middle Earth is, or Arda, as the whole thing is called, is a prehistory of our world that is much bigger than Middle Earth, and the Shire is essentially London, not London, England. So that's pretty fun. Whenever I found this out, I'm pretty happy that Tolkien used reference points. So he kind of created like a prehistory, and that a part of the world is actually referenced from England, which is pretty cool because you actually then can go to like England, to the countryside, to Sarehole Mill, and walk around and like really understand what Tolkien was talking about. So, and I know that the Shire was originally filmed in New Zealand, actually. So there's kind of two Shires, but I think England is the real Shire because the original creator himself. That's the place where he inspired from. And also, if you look at like the general look of the Shire and the countryside of England, it is pretty similar. Like you have meadows, you have brushes, you have the farmland. It looks very similar in the general like landscape. So basically, that's just kind of how that's the secret of Middle Earth, I suppose. Hope you enjoyed the video, right? I try to find as much information as I can, as much as accurate information as I can, and I try and bring it all, a nice little What do you mean compulsive? Nice little compact ball of information, then just blast it into your face. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Right, if you really liked it, then consider subscribing. If you liked it, just okay, then leave a like. And if you disliked it, then obviously just leave a comment, right? Because if you dislike it, nobody will see it anyway. Only I will see it, and won't even know why you disliked it. So just leave a comment, constructive criticism, and that would be pretty cool. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Please tell me in the comments also what do you think, if you have any more information, and what do you think of Middle Earth. What's like your favorite thing about the place? And hope you enjoyed. Live long and prosper.